Hello, my name's Tina Shull, and I'm a public historian of immigration, foreign relations, and climate migration in the modern US and the world. While I specialize in immigration detention, my work has become increasingly environmental, given the growing interconnections between climate change and migration globally. To me, doing history is always a present minded activity, and I believe that working with students and communities to collect and archive stories and to provide historical context to how we got here can be powerful ways to confront, understand, disrupt, and repair injustice. I direct a digital humanities project called Climate Refugee Stories, and we're a team of students, scholars, migrants and refugees, nonprofit directors, artists, filmmakers, activists, and storytellers. And we're always looking for more collaborators. Climate Refugee Stories, it's a multimedia narrative and archiving project that uplifts the stories of people from around the world who have been displaced by direct or indirect impacts of climate change, and it documents the ways that communities are responding to these crises. There are currently no legal protections for climate refugees in international law. Furthermore, the US's current policies of climate change denialism, increasing militarization, and border controls are exacerbating a global refugee crisis. But there is hope. We invite storytellers and audiences to debate and define climate refugees for themselves, to reveal the historical, political, economic, and environmental causes of migration, and to provide tools for building community resilience and allying movements for social and environmental justice. The project was launched in 2018 at UC Irvine in collaboration with students and with grants from the University of California's Global Refugee Studies Collective. Most of our content is still under production, and we now have the Documenting Human Migrations education grant from National Geographic. COVID has disrupted and shifted our fieldwork and focus a bit, but in ways that I believe will allow us to broaden the project's audience and impact. The project is open-ended in scope and designed to grow and invite participation from the public. But the initial impetus for the project was the US context as it grew out of my collaboration with students and nonprofit work, and in working with people in immigration detention whose stories have increasingly become environmental, and yet they do not qualify for refugee status. So far, we have collected stories from the Marshall Islands. We're working on stories from Bangladesh and India, the US-Mexico border, and the Central America refugee caravan, and from US immigration detention, as well as Puerto Rico, Ghana, and the Bahamas. The project's designed to be ever expanding, and we are building an archive where video content, full-length interviews, documents, and images can be stored for further research. And then we also have an educational component to the website. We have a hashtag climate migration syllabus that is a crowdsourced, expanding set of resources that was put together by students of mine in a course at Harvard last year. And it's also designed to expand. And then we've also developed a high school curriculum for around climate-induced migration. So the goals of the project are designed to engage students, non-governmental organizations, and affected communities in questions of who are climate refugees, the historical origins of climate change's disparate impacts, and how communities are responding to this convergence of crises, including the COVID-19 pandemic. So our goals are to introduce and debate the term climate refugees itself, which is problematic, but that is an entree into the conversation. And then, given the militarized responses to immigration and climate change and growing authoritarianism worldwide, our project focuses on borders as a site of meaning, broadly defined, and on uplifting and archiving the stories and voices of those who've been less heard and who have borne the brunt of these policies through forced migration, displacement, confronting national borders, in camps or detention sites, or after migration or deportation and resettlement. We also want to move beyond simplified narratives of refugees as threats or victims, and our approach is informed by methods in participatory action research, as well as critical refugee studies, to understand refugees themselves as knowledge producers and experts of their own experiences, and to be inclusive, to include migrants, refugees, displaced persons, indigenous groups defending land and resource rights, communities facing environmental racism, and activist, artist, and storyteller allies in the production process of the project itself. And finally, we want to create and pilot educational materials to place stories in their proper historical contexts, to draw connections across time and place, and to ally movements for climate and social justice, and to support resilience-building efforts. This year, there have been an unprecedented convergence of challenges: climate crisis, ongoing racial injustice, and deepening inequalities. The impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic have impacted and delayed our work, but our team also has a unique opportunity to respond to the crisis and to broaden the scope and audience of the project through exploring the overlaps of COVID and climate crisis. We are adapting our field work currently to incorporate COVID's impacts in some of our stories, especially how COVID has impacted mobility through lockdowns, border closures, and experiences of detention and deportation, and to create more educational materials to add context and draw connections between COVID, public health, and climate justice. We're also developing a new curriculum called Immobility and Climate Justice in the Time of COVID-19. A curriculum for all learners. So next, several of our team members will share about their roles in the project, their fieldwork experiences or plans, and some of the challenges that they faced, including how the pandemic has impacted our work. And please feel free to contact me to get involved, and please follow us. That's it. Thank you.